For more, I'm joined by Professor John Blaxland, Head of Strategic and Defence Studies Centre at the ANU. Thank you for being with us and joining us this evening. Now, Prime Minister Turnbull says that the United States and Australia are joined at the hip in terms of defence. Now, this, of course, touches on the ANZUS Treaty. Just remind us of when this has been invoked in the past.
Well, the ANZUS Treaty was signed in 1951, but it's only actually ever been invoked once, and that was by John Howard after the September 11th attacks of 2001 at the World Trade Center in the Pentagon. So that is, it is quite an extraordinary commitment to make. It is one that is very much couched in terms of conjecture about what might happen. My sense is that this really is actually an attempt by the Prime Minister to demonstrate not only credentials to the United States, but to send a message to Kim Jong-un that it's not just Donald Trump saying this. And why would you do that? And my sense is that what this is about, I suspect that what's happened is the United States has approached Australia about reinforcing the message to try and get Kim Jong-un to back off the idea of actually firing missiles at Guam. Why would you do that? Because Kim Jong-un once says he's going to fire it at about, some distance away from Guam, but we're not actually all that confident about the level of precision of the ballistic missiles coming out of North Korea.
I want to go back a little bit more to the ANZUS city. You mentioned the ANZUS Treaty. You mentioned that it was couched in not very clear terms, and we know that Foreign Minister Julie Bishop had earlier said the ANZUS Treaty only stated that Australia and the US were only required to consult with each other if either country was either threatened or attacked. If push came to shove, and this is a White House that we're seeing that seems to be quite ready to go to war, is Australia going to be dragged into a war that's close to home?
Well, that's a very good question. We've written a book at the Strategic and Defence Studies Centre called Australia's American Alliance. And in that we talk about the breadth and the depth of the military and security ties between Australia and the United States. And the ANZUS Treaty is really just the tip of the iceberg. The ties between the Australian Defence Force and the US Armed Forces are extraordinary. They're intimate, they're personal, they're organisational, they're capability-wise, they're intelligence-wise. We are very, very closely connected, and that's why the Prime Minister's remarks aren't that far removed from reality. We are very closely connected with the United States. They look to us as very much a close partner, not only in this part of the world, but obviously in the Middle East as well. And when it comes to a reliable Western partner to confront Kim Jong-un, who, remember, let's face it, he's been the one firing the ballistic missiles all through the Sea of Japan and making incredibly bellicose remarks. Trump, I get it, he's been responding in like kind, but it is the North Korean missiles that have been the trigger of this, and the apparent indications of the miniaturisation of a nuclear weapon, which has yet to be corroborated. And this is an important point too, Fawzia. Australian intelligence organisations are known for their rigorous examination of the facts for themselves, and they've actually got better and better at doing this. So the reports emanating from the Pentagon, from the US intelligence agencies, that the North Koreans have miniaturised and are getting ready to put a nuclear weapon on an ICBM, an intercontinental ballistic missile. I think we do need to take a second breath on that one and actually wait to see whether we in Australia corroborate that intelligence, because it is still conjectural. Nonetheless, there is still this sense of concern about what Kim Jong-un will do. He's threatened to fire these missiles at Guam. Now, in the past, they've gone near Japan, the Sea of Japan. Arguably, that should have technically triggered a similar response from America. But let's be honest, let's be realistic about this. That wasn't about American people or American territory. Now it's about Guam. Guam is American territory, and American people live there. If you start striking that, that is a different equation. That is a game changer. So, the United States would react militarily to a strike on Guam. So, what do we need to do? We need to get Kim Jong-un to get that idea out of his mind. And my sense is that the Prime Minister's comments about being joined at the hip, supporting Trump so categorically, surprisingly categorically, are actually more about sending a message about this particular instance about Guam. It's really important that Kim Jong-un not fire those missiles.
Can I just interrupt you there? And sometimes we seem to forget what this is actually all about and how it all started. We seem to have this conversation every time North Korea ups its rhetoric. What's actually behind the threats from Pyongyang? What does Pyongyang want?
Pyongyang wants two things. Kim Jong-un wants to hold on to power, and part of that is actually sending a message to his own people about how grave the threat is externally. And secondly, he is sending a message to the United States and to other great powers that he does not want to be the next Saddam Hussein or Muammar Gaddafi, who both gave up their weapons of mass destruction and died not that long afterwards.
Professor John Blaxland, there's so much to talk about. Unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time on ABC News.
Thanks for having me on the program, Fawzia.